Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play ChäoS. Let me go ahead and get my timer started. The sky beyond the train windows was deepening to indigo. The trains on the Yamanote line were beginning to bustle with salarymen going home from work and students returning from school. Kusunoke Yua and Yasuji Ban stood shoulder to shoulder, each holding onto a hanging ceiling strap as the train shook them. Perhaps because they made for an odd combination and drew people's attention, Yua had sensed incessant gazes coming from their surroundings for a while now. That might have been why she restlessly toyed with her hair and adjusted the position of her glasses over and over. Nor did she have the emotional slack to be able to carry out a friendly chat with Ban, the detective she had met for the first time only a few days ago. It took one stop to get from Harajuku to Shibuya. She couldn't help experiencing those brief 3 minutes as feeling far longer than they were in actuality. Ban only held his silence and looked out the window. He did an attempt to start a conversation with Yua. Yua's opinion of Ban was that he didn't seem to be a bad person, but he was just a little bit intimidating. She had met people employed as detectives countless times in relation to her sister's death, but they hadn't left a very good impression on her. That might explain her sense that she would have a hard time dealing with Ban. Such was the result of Yua's self-analysis.
だから地下15階の番人倒せば隠しダンジョン行けるだろ常識的に考えて
番人どこにいるかわからんなり
Since the time they got on the train at Harajuku Station, two men standing near the door had been talking in excessively loud voices. Their voices, which came out without any regard for how it might bother people around them, entered Yua's ears whether or not she wanted to hear them.
マップの左端の方だよ一目でわかるだろ番人
っていうか番人と警官の区別つかないぞなもし
いやいやどう見ても番人だろどこが警官なんだよ番人は銃持ってねえよ
The two of them wore rather plain clothes, with bandanas on their foreheads, fingerless gloves on their hands, and full stuffed knapsacks on their backs. They belonged to the race commonly known as otaku. There were times when Yua read manga or watched anime because she liked it, and their appearances didn't induce any particular revulsion in her. It was just that she had never been to Akihabara, and it was her first time seeing people garbed like stereotypical otaku. Realizing how rude she was being, taking curious little glances at them, she hastily lowered her eyes. In the seat in front of her was a high school brunette wearing a disheveled navy blue blazer. She was texting someone on her cell phone with fingers adorned by gaudy artificial nails. Each time she moved her fingers, her phone's strap, patterned after a handgun, quivered a little. The contents of her message naturally entered Yua's eyes. Why? Well, because the high school girl held it peculiarly flat as she typed, almost as if she were forcing Yua to see it. I went to a mixer with a cop last night. Super boring. Fucking clueless geezer. Like, just die already. While Yua was also a high school girl, she couldn't read a word of the text. It looked like so-called Kogal slang, but she couldn't perceive it as anything but some kind of secret code. A child's voice suddenly traveled through the train car. Yua jumped a bit, then turned in the direction she'd heard it from. A little boy about 5 years old was standing close by Ban. He held a toy water gun and pointed its barrel at Ban. He was actually pulling the trigger, but no water came out. Ban flashed the child a smile. His eyes weren't smiling, but the child still didn't shrink back. A motherly woman soon came running up to the boy. She bowed her head a little to Ban. The mother used a fairly strong tone of voice in her efforts to stop her child, but it was solely a verbal warning through and through. She didn't confiscate the water pistol or make her son lower his hands.
To Yua, it seemed like a very unnatural looking scene. The
mother presented an angry face to her child and an apologetic face to Ban, but she did no more.
バーンバーンバーンやめなさい怒るわよバーンバーンバーン
Undaunted, the little boy went on repeating the same word over and over like a broken toy. Even then, and in spite of what she said to him, the mother made absolutely no attempt to stop him.
本当にすいませんバーンバーンバーン
For some reason, Ban too let the child do as he wished.
バーンバーンバーン
In the end, it continued all the way until they reached Shibuya Station. The train arrived at Shibuya Station and the doors opened. The water pistol parent and child weren't getting off. Relieved, Yua descended to the platform together with Ban. When she looked to ascertain Ban's expression, he was smiling ruefully.
お急ぎ中のお客様にお知らせいたします。地下鉄番号門線、失礼しました。半蔵門線は人身事故の影響でただいま振り替え運転を行っております。お客様には大変ご迷惑をおかけして申し訳ございません。
最近よく感じるんだが。
The flow of people on the platform was swelling. Ban muttered this to Yua as they walked through the crowd, going toward the Hachiko exits turnstiles.
まるで不特定多数の人間にストーカーされてるような気がするんだよな。
どういうことですか
さっきみたいなことがよくあるって話さ。周囲の人間の何気ない行動がまるで自分への嫌がらせじゃねえかって思えてくるわけよ。
Which is why Ban had ultimately answered the child's mischief with silence. That sort of trouble, which you couldn't really call trouble, had become an everyday occurrence for him. His nerves wouldn't hold up if he let every single little thing get to him.
まあ、考えすぎだろうが、俺みたいな地味なおっさんに興味があるやつなんてそうそういねえだろうし。ただ、集団ストーカーってのは確かに存在するんだよな。
普通のストーカー行為とは何が違うんですか
Well, I want to assume with a name like group stalkers, it's people that stalk in a group.
被害を受けてる側からすると、相手の意図や目的、正体すら全くわかんねえんだ。ただ、誰かに行く先々で毎日のように様々な嫌がらせを受けていると感じる。集団ストーカーってのはそういうもんだ。
ただの考えすぎっていう可能性は
十分にあり得るだろうな。脅迫観念と紙一重だ。俺の場合はそうでもなさそうなんだけどな。ここ数日は相手もかなり直接的な手段に出てきてやがる。
と言いますと
手を引けって脅迫する匿名の電話が何度かかかってきてな。
For some reason, Ban grinned foolishly as he said it. Yua, becoming conversely frightened, hugged her own upper arms.
それ大丈夫なんですか
まあ、デカにはよくあることさ。
Ban answered calmly, then quickly looked at Yua with a stiffer expression.
ユアちゃんは最近そんなようなことはないかい？
はいないと思います
身の回りでちょっとでも違和感を覚えることがあったらすぐにおじさんに言ってくれ。ユアちゃんの身の安全を守るのは警察の仕事だからな。
はい
As she listened to him, she became aware that what she was currently involved in was something more dangerous than she'd expected.
あなたは妄想の存在なんだよ
Well, that sounds like a wonderful thing to tell somebody. Remy murmured enigmatic words. Ignoring what she'd said, I kept running my eyes across the nearby row of houses. This place in my memory. This place I had no recollection of seeing. The house that should have been here wasn't. A house that shouldn't have been here was. Illuminated by the sunset, the gap between my memories and the actual scenery steadily began to stand out more and more prominently. I let my voice out, frantic to deny the despair in my heart. That's right. There weren't any gaps between the two. I was just a block off. I'd been mistaken. There was nothing wrong with the world. Otherwise, it'd be too strange. I turned back the way I came, almost tripping over myself, and ran into the next narrow street. But the sense of displacement between my memories and the scenery wouldn't go away. Before I knew it, my whole body was sweating. It felt like my eyes were rolling back in my head, like my feet weren't touching the ground. The sensation of it made nausea come rushing up in me.
なんでだよ。ここに僕の家があるのは間違いないんだ。僕はいつもここから小学校にも中学校にも通ってたんだ。小学校にはナナミと手をつないで登校してたし、中学は自転車で。
どこの中学校？
Remy asked quietly, having caught up with me.
どこって？
なんていう学校？
そんなの決まってるじゃないか。地元の。
The school's name was... I couldn't remember. I'd gone to middle school. I had memories of doing so, but the little details remained vague, like there was a fog in my head. Such as my middle school's name, such as which class I'd been in, such as the name of my homeroom teacher. Concrete names wouldn't come out of me.
そんなはずないんだ。ただ、忘れてるだけで。
タク、聞いて。あなたの記憶にあるのは、この場所に家がある、じゃなくて、この場所に家があるはずっていう思い込み。そう。
It felt like I go crazy.
だって僕はここに来るまでの道は覚えてるんだぞ。おかしいじゃないか。
それは作られた記憶だから。
Don't make that kind of face. Eyes lowered, her expression so sorrowful. Remy flung out words meant to mislead me. Again, her words were cryptic. Incomprehensible, I abandoned all thoughts of them.
タクは中学には通ってないの。
わかったぞ。これドッキリでしょ。そうなんでしょ。きっとあれだ。そう、リミとナナミが実は知り合いとかで僕を二人して騙そうとしてるんだ。なんだ。そうかそうか。ビビった。
Although I tried to somehow laugh it off, Remy didn't let out the tiniest giggle.
ごめん。私、これからあなたを傷つけることを言わなくちゃ。タク、あなたはね、本来いちゃいけない存在なんだよ。
Again, exactly something people want to hear.
嘘つくな。
Remy was deceiving me. Remy was my enemy too.
貼り付けはリミの仕業だな。
I meant what had happened the first time we met, at the scene of the staking. Had it been a delusion or anything? The true new-gen criminal wasn't the man I'd seen earlier on the hospital television. It was Remy. She'd been observing me, making sure I wasn't going to go tell someone the truth about what I'd witnessed. That had been her goal in staying together with me.
君はあの時血まみれだった。だから君が犯人だ。
あれはあなたの望んだ妄想。ギガロマニアックスの妄想はね、強すぎる場合、時に混じり合うの。妄想がシンクロするんだ。
Softly, as though to persuade me, Remy spoke. Her attitude, brimming with composure, rubbed my nerves the wrong way.
少なくともあの時、あの場所では4つの妄想がシンクロしてた。
4 delusions? Who the hell's delusions were they? I mean, I can see, you know, MC here, maybe Remy, maybe the guy who is, you know, being staked. But then, who would be the fourth? Again, because of the way I record these, I don't recall what choice we made last time. I think it might have been green last time. Let's do a red. I think it's been a little while actually since we've done a red, so let's mix things up a little.
タクと私とニュージェネの犯人と。
信じるもんか。
Remy was about to continue further. I cut off her words. I covered my ears. I closed my eyes.
これは妄想だ。そうだよ、妄想なんだ。いつもしているみたいな。
これ以上妄想しちゃダメ。
What did delusion block me, Remy? As my heart tried to escape into a delusion, Remy's voice forcibly pulled me back.
出ないと私、タクを消さなくちゃいけなくなる。
I think at this point, isn't that something you should probably be doing anyway?
殺すの？
A shudder ran down my back. I stopped recognizing Remy as the girl who had saved me, or rather, who would save me, and began to perceive her as an unknown entity.
殺すんだな。やっぱり君が殺人犯なんだ。
So why do you look like that? Because you're making such a tearful face, biting your lip, lowering your head. I began to hesitate to blame you. Tell me, the truth is, it's a lie. Say, didn't I surprise you? And smile mischievously. I do that, and we can go back to the same relationship as before. I want to go back.
だったら僕は何なの？
ギガロマニアックスの妄想によって作られた人間かな。
バカらしい。僕にはちゃんと記憶があるんだ。中学の頃の細かい記憶は思い出せないけど、忘れちゃっただけで。
あなたが生まれたのは1年半前なの。
A year and a half ago? Around when I first started, around when I first entered high school.
だったら僕は1歳半の赤ん坊っていうことじゃないか。
Well, not if we're a delusion. Or, you know, we were created by a delusion.
バブ言ってなくちゃおかしい。
タクは生まれた瞬間からタクだった。
君がその目で見たって言いたいの？確かに僕らは1年半前から友達だったらしいね。僕は覚えてないけど。
私とあなたが会ったのは1ヶ月前。貼り付けの現場。私はもともと水明の生徒じゃないから。
Remy was off her rocker. Remy too had been off her rocker. Oh, okay. I feel like that's sort of a weird thing. You know, it'd be one thing if it was two different names, but they're both Remy, so that doesn't quite make sense here. At least to me. Let's just move on. She was way out there. So far off in the stratosphere, Senna and ISA couldn't hold a candle to her.
誰が僕を妄想したの？言ってみてよ。
西条匠くんだよ。
入ったアウト。僕が妄想なんでしょ。その僕が妄想して僕を作ったって矛盾してるじゃないか。はい、論破終了。
I'm gonna guess the old man that we call Shogun, or at least that we assume is Shogun, is Nishijo Takumi. He had delusion strong enough to basically bring to life another Nishijo Takumi. That is us that we're actually playing as here. I'm going to assume that's how that works. I guess we'll find out if I'm right down the road, if, you know, they ever tell us, which I assume they will.
それとも君の妄想
Well, not if her real name isn't Remy.
君が勝手に作り出した君だけの脳内設定なんでしょ。僕をそれに巻き込まないでよ。
私だってタクには知ってほしくなかった。ここにも来てほしくなかった。もっと強く引き止めればよかったね。
Remy raised her face resolutely, her eyes gazing straight at me. Were very serious and filled with light, and they didn't appear to be lying.
でもここまで来たら本当のことを知ってもらった方がいいと思う。
But it was a lie. This must be a lie. It had to be a lie. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to stay in my right mind. Who the hell would believe it if someone suddenly told them, "You're a delusion"?
あなたの行動が他の人の命を削っていくんだって知ってもらった方が。
そうだ。ナナミは僕が妄想だったら僕と血が繋がってるナナミも両親も妄想ってこと？そんなの無茶苦茶。
ナナちゃんはいるよ。
Her phrasing practically made it sound as if she knew Nanami.
ナナミを誘拐したのは君なの。
似たようなものかもね。私はタクを守ることに気を取られすぎてナナちゃんが狙われる可能性を考えてなかった。私は誘拐犯のこと知って
Of course you do. So that's how it was, of course. She was the demon girl I'd imagined her back to be at the start. Or, I imagined her to be at the start. I'd wanted Remy alone to be my ally. I'd believed it, that wish alone, the whole time up till now. But when it came to suspicious things about her, there had been tons of them all along. I'd intently closed my eyes to them and kept faith in how she said, "I'll be there for you." Despite that, in the same way as Yua, Remy too would.
君も僕を裏切るんだね。
そうだね。私はタクを裏切った。隠し事たくさんしてた。ごめんね。私のこと恨んでいいよ。
謝られたって僕は信じない。信じられない。
That was what I said up front, but I couldn't prove I was me, the real me thing. Plus, the many paranormal phenomena I'd seen before now clung to the back of my brain, leaving me unable to laugh Remy's story off as something offbeat. Remy walked slowly up to me, embraced me from the front. Caught by surprise, I ended up letting her do as she willed. That warmth, it had rescued me from danger. It had saved my heart. It had taught me kindness. But now, even when she held me like this, her warmth seemed terribly distant.
そろそろ行かなきゃ。
行くってどこへ？
ナナちゃんをさらった誘拐犯のところ。決着つけなくちゃいけないの。ナナちゃんのことも他のことも。このままだとタクも守りきれないし。
そんなの無責任だ。僕にここまでひどいこと言っておいて逃げるの？
Remy moved away from me, one step, another step. Little by little, she widened the distance between us.
戻ってくるから、タクは部屋にいて。そしたらまた一緒にいろいろ楽しいお話ししよう。あなたはあそこにいてもいいんだよ。
A gentle tone of voice. After telling me such cruel things, why did she become kind again?
でも一つだけ約束。もう妄想はしない。ね。タクの妄想力はとっても強いから。妄想すればするほど本物のあなたの命が削られていっちゃうんだ。
何よ。
それじゃあまた明日。石。
Remy snapped off a salute. She had on an incredibly out-of-place smile. But soon tears quietly overflowed from her eyes. Turning her back to me, as though flustered, Remy ran off with shaking shoulders. Once I'd watched her go in a trance, I crumbled in place.
本物の僕ってなんだよ。僕は偽物じゃない。
The world looked drained of its colors. I couldn't react, or I couldn't detect any hope. She'd completely denied my existence itself. There wasn't any meaning to my being here. There wouldn't even be any meaning in my dying. Remy had left, leaving behind this meaningless me. She too was my enemy. She deceived me. And after telling me everything like that, she must have lost her reasons for being with me.
戻ってくるはずない。
Remy had cast me aside, because apparently I was a delusionary existence, because I was a monster. I didn't care anymore. I didn't care about anything anymore. Lacking the energy to stand up, unable to sort out my emotions, too shocked to weep. The breeze that came just before twilight stole the heat from the very core of my body. The faint remnants of Remy's warmth disappeared as well. When I took an aimless look up at the sky, most of the sunset had already been invaded by the darkness of night.
これが新作？またへんてこね。
So my timer has about 2 minutes left on the clock, but I don't think we're going to be able to necessarily finish like this section in those 2.5-ish minutes. So we're going to have this be a slightly shorter part, and we're going to end this here. I will see you all next time. Quick reminder, I do have a Discord that is my go-to place for posting about the channel. If you want to stay up to date with what's going on, I highly recommend you join that. Second, if you want to support the channel financially, there are 2 major ways to go and do that. Those are going to be either via Patreon or via Streamlabs donations. If you go Patreon, you get some goodies such as early access to videos. If you go the Streamlabs route, you don't get any goodies, mostly because, as I've mentioned in the past, there's no good way for me to be able to really hand out the rewards that Patreon, patrons get. So if you go the Streamlabs route, you don't get anything. You just sort of get that good feeling that whatever you give, the channel actually gets more of it, because Patreon takes, I believe it's a 5% cut. Or at least for me, because I'm sort of grandfathered into an older plan of theirs, where it's they take a 5% cut. I think now if you were to make a brand new Patreon account and go up there, I think it's an 8% cut that they take actually. But don't quote me on that. But yeah, one thing I did, unless I'm mixing up my games, I think a number of weeks back, I think it might have been the week before I last recorded the last 2 parts. But I believe I saw something indicating that there might be an official English translation of ChäoS coming. Don't quote me on that. I didn't really look into it too much back then, and it's now been weeks, I believe. Like I said, I believe it was the week that I recorded the last 2 parts when I saw some post somewhere sharing this. But like I said, I didn't really look into it, so I don't know how true it is. So we'll see. Obviously, if this game does get an official English translation and release, that would be wonderful. I'm not going to do a new series on that if it were to happen. I just can't be bothered. If they decide to do sort of a package deal where they release both ChäoS Head and ChäoS Child, I will probably do a series on ChäoS Child at some point in the future. Just like I would love to do a series on Steins Gate, which I do own. I just haven't. I did do a couple videos years ago when I was sort of, giving you all an opportunity to decide which of those visual novels I have to continue. This ended up being the one that sort of won out there. But then this series got the axe because of technical difficulties with the locale emulator and the saves and all that jazz. I just ran into issues. I think that was around the time Windows 10 came out. I did an update to that, and then it had issues. I believe this was around that time, but I might be misremembering. Either way, but yeah, so there might be an official English translation of either or both ChäoS Head and ChäoS Child, which would be great if that does happen. At the very least, I think the post I saw indicated that ChäoS Head is getting an official English translation. I believe is what it said. I don't recall if it made any mention of ChäoS Child, however. So we'll see. Again, that'd be great. I would love it if they were to do an official English translation because I do enjoy the game. I mean, I'm not the kind of person who's probably going to go and play through it multiple times, but nonetheless, I do enjoy it. It actually has an interesting story compared to many visual novels out there. I really like these science adventure visual novels. A lot of visual novels tend to be sort of generic kind of story. A decent number of them tend to be, dating simulators where your character's in high school type thing. And it's just like the same old story type thing. Often with the same character types, you get the shy, nobody knows them sort of main character. And then just like with anime, you end up with a bunch of, you get the student council president, the beautiful princess type character who may or may not be rich, it may just be super beautiful type thing. Everybody wants her kind of thing. Maybe add in a foreigner. So, the generic blonde hair, blue eyes foreigner for it. This game doesn't do that. And honestly, I think that's one of the things that I really do like about it. As well as a little bit of Steins Gate that I played. I didn't play it extensively. But yeah, so like I said, I'll see you all next time. Until then, goodbye and farewell.